Hi everybody, it's Grace. Welcome to Eating Peace Weekly Videos. I'm going to share an awesome tool that I basically first began to use without even knowing that I was using it when I was a very young girl, probably only 8 years old. And you might think this tool sounds a little bit crazy, but before I tell you what the tool is, just remember that eating for emotional reasons, when you binge eat or if you're graze eating or you're just filling yourself up all night and wondering why you're overeating and having this trouble, this trouble occur in your life, and yo-yo weight gain and loss, and all the misery surrounding food and eating, isn't that a little bit crazy too? It's kind of crazy. It's also here for an important reason. You're being invited to something powerful. But we're going to just move over to from that area that is very dark and dreary and difficult, and you feel like you're fighting and at war with something and you're not even sure what it is. We're going to move over into a more positive aspect of imagination. You still don't have to be sure what it is, but you can have a kind voice, a loving voice, a friendly, unconditional, compassionate voice that's speaking to you, rather than that mean, nasty voice that usually accompanies compulsive craving or behavior, a very demanding and commanding voice. So let's go take a look at the soft, gentle one, and that's the tool. All right, you ready for the tool? It's getting an extremely clear, vivid picture, an experience, maybe hearing the voice in your mind, of your wise self, your wise guide. You can call it anything you want. I mean, people have, angels, and some religious figure. People who follow the Course in Miracles in a modern way these days might say J for Jesus. You could have a fairy godmother. That is my personal favorite. I love the fairy tales. My history and my culture is full of fairy tales, and they aren't pink, lacy, fluffy bunny fairy tales. They are fairy tales that are full of dark, sinister, conquering, having to get through crazy stuff, people getting their hair chopped off and people climbing towers and, things like that. So I love the world of the fairy tales and all that goes on into it. And so I like the voice of a very powerful, beautiful, and deeply spiritual fairy godmother. You do not have to use that word. You can say your wise mentor. You can have somebody like Socrates. You can have your guide, a very learned professor. Doesn't matter what gender. Maybe it's somebody who even switches genders at times. Who knows? But there is somebody that you can call on, and it's an aspect of yourself, of course, in the end, that is compassionate, loving, unconditional, and you have, just like all of us have that within. So I'll share with you a funny little thing. When I was 8, I lived in Lawrence, Kansas. I always love that. Thinking of fairy tales, a more modern, recent one in the history of hundreds of years of fairy tales is The Wizard of Oz. So there I was in Kansas. And there were flowers growing in the yard, and I loved the idea. I had a little fairy tale book that I had gotten in England where I was born, and we moved to Kansas. And this beautiful little book had pictures of fairies that accompanied every type of plant and flower. So there was one for the tulip and one for the, whatever kind, trees and certain kinds of plants, the gorse blossom in England. And all the fairies were painted differently and had different genders and sizes and shapes, and they were just beautiful. I was enamored with them when I was 6. So I would go out into the yard, into the garden, and actually talk to the flowers and the plants. And one of my very best friends also did it with me, who was a real human, by the way. So we had the best time imagining the fairies speaking to us. And I love connecting with that part that is really innocent, young, and you know that this voice has been with you maybe since before you were a child. I love imagining that, and that this is a voice that is connected, or a feeling or an energy that is connected to what is beyond you as an individual, you as an individual self. Now, the voice that is often in our head when we are experiencing compulsive behavior of any kind is very mean and nasty. It's very demanding. I must eat now. There's nothing else that can satisfy me. Only food will. And then when that fails and becomes miserable, as you go through the cycle of overeating, then it is like the meanest dictator you've ever heard in your life, right? You suck. In fact, Annie Lamott, the wonderful writer who's had fabulous experience in understanding her own addictive processes and really finding gentleness and peace around them, she calls that voice radio station, KRAP, which is perfect. And it's like a radio station. You can just let it be on way softer over here in the corner. You're not trying to obliterate it because it seems to be part of human nature, but we're just giving a little more attention to a wonderful radio station, LOVE, right? Another radio station that we all have access to. So that's your homework. That's your love work. That's your play work to have inside and to experiment with. If you've never done anything imagining, some wise person coming to you to speak to you, if you've never had, any of that kind of relationship with something that seems beyond or bigger than you that you can have access to, then you can ask, show yourself to me. You can have that as a secret little prayer or incantation or invitation. And maybe you'll have a dream. Maybe you'll have a dream very soon in the next few days, or you'll see somebody on the street who seems very appealing, and you'll say, some aspects of that person over there is exactly who my wise guide would look like. So build your wise guide. Make this guidance a really clear person, because then that voice, that entity, that experience that you have within yourself, really, in the end, your sage, your wise, your wisdom, call it source, God, reality, whatever's beyond you, that can speak with you, and you can hear what it would have to say about your food and eating woes and the difficulty you get into in these moments of compulsive craving, compulsive experience. And it can help you understand. It can answer questions, and it can ask you questions, and you can have a dialogue with it. I will definitely talk about that more next week, how to have a dialogue and how to work with it. But in the meantime, even if you've already used somebody in your life to speak with, and somebody that you have a personal relationship and can connect with in your heart, that's part of your imagination, part of your mind, part of your life experience, talk to them a little more this week. Have them come in and speak to you. Build it out a little bit, like you're the director directing this incredible program called My Recovery, and you're going to have a wise mystic mentor enter the scene, and they're going to have a lot to teach you and a lot you can learn from them. All right? Okay. Take care. Enjoy yourself, everybody. Lots of peace. Bye-bye.